Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Blaugrana Everything. And man, what a stinker of a performance that was from FC Barcelona in the Super Copa final. Final score 4-1 to Real Madrid. And honestly speaking, it was like just an amalgamation of all the things that Barcelona has been suffering from in the season, and everything just came to the fore in one game. And really, to be honest, this match was over before even the 20th minute mark. As soon as Real Madrid went 2-0 up, you knew what happened, you knew what was coming, and you knew that Barcelona were not going to be coming back from that. And honestly, I've generally been backing Xavi during this spell Barcelona have been having from about, the last El Clasico loss to this one. And yeah, first El Clasico of 2024, the one losing end already, by the way. But anyway, I've been on Xavi's side. I've given reasons, saying give Xavi time, this, that. But I have to say, at the end of this performance, I don't see Xavi keeping his job probably beyond this season, because for a fact Laporte is watching that and seeing how that unfolded, and he's going to be feeling like Xavi is the guy to take this team forward. And it's hard to argue that he is, because starting from the selection, what was going on. We've played the last two matches using a 4-3-3, and things were looking good, or at least good-ish, whilst playing with that 4-3-3. So naturally, he just went ahead and completely abandoned that 4-3-3. For what reason, I have no idea. It only seemed to make us even more defensively vulnerable, because players are now in a system that they are not familiar with, so they're never going to be where they're supposed to be. I mean, just look at Barcelona's shape for the first two Vinicius goals, and I just have to say, I think that above everything else, one thing which, as Kool-Aids and all of us generally in the football world, as what we are learning from this season collectively for Barcelona, is just how difficult it's going to be to move on from Sergio Busquets. Because look at those first two goals and tell me that having Busquets in his element, in the place where he's usually found, that he wouldn't have prevented both of those goals. Because both of those goals came about due to Barcelona just, doing stupid things and making silly errors, especially on that first goal. I mean, why are there three players closing down Bellingham, and why is our centre back stepping up and leaving a gaping hole through the middle where Vinicius could just make his run? So yeah, honestly, when I look back at Barca's season, and I'm speaking like this, like we're already at the end of the season, I guess I'm already writing off this season in my head. But when I look at this season, and I think all the things that have held Barca back, some of the poor tactical decisions, the poor finishing, the defensive blunders and all those kinds of things. And if you ask me just for one thing I would change about this season, one thing I would take away, I think it would have to be the defensive errors. Because man, how many times have we seen our players make an error and it directly leads to a goal, right? Think Araujo against Almeria, think Gundogan against Alaves, think, who was it? Araujo again against Valencia. Think of all those matches, silly errors. Koundé, so many times this has happened this season as well. Here, once again, we saw, and it was punished because, of course, you're playing one of the most clinical teams in the world. They're going to punish you. And seeing how Barca was torn apart like that, it's kind of a hint like, hey, you know what? This Champions League thing, yeah, if you go further in that competition, you're going to meet the teams like Manchester City, like Bayern Munich, teams that are very lethal on the break, teams like Inter Milan who can take you apart on the break. And it's not going to be good for Barcelona, because right now, just about any team that's useful on the break is going to tear us apart, is going to score loads of goals against us. Arsenal, whoever, name them all. So, I don't know, maybe it's just that the wounds are still fresh, but at this point, I think that I'm sufficiently disengaged enough from this horrible season that we're seeing from Barcelona, sufficiently disengaged to realize that, right now we're just fighting to stay in the top four for one, because Bilbao and Atleti are in really good form right now. And secondly, it's just we need to really find a solution for that defensive midfielder role, because if we do not, it doesn't matter what amount of Pedris, Gavis, or Lewandowskis or Lamines you have, nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to save you from this kind of a performance. And it's a shame because, last season it really felt like Barcelona had started to move past this kind of performance. But instead, Xavi ends up having yet another terrible record for FC Barcelona. I mean, we used to talk about these things when it was Ronald Koeman, failing to win a single big game. And now Xavi as well is starting to set some records which he's not going to be very pleased that these things are happening on his watch, okay? Because prior to Xavi coming to Barca, no Real Madrid player in the 21st century had scored a hat-trick against Barca. And now, like 2-3 years in, we've seen it happen 2 times. Once with Karim Benzema and now with Vinicius Jr. And, anyway, the less said, right? I've got nothing more really to say here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments or whatever, but aside from that, I thank you all for tuning in, thank you for your support as well, closing in on 7K. I see you guys. Thank you all for your support. And, at the end of the day, still going to be here watching Barcelona and hoping for things to turn around for the better. And hoping that, there's a silver lining. But aside from all that, I thank you for tuning in again. Have a great day and Forza Barça.